Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second game of this second best of three between TheFoxSound and Reason Gaming. I am Pulse, I am joined by Metas, and the band champions are coming thick and fast.
They are, but at the moment I am watching on stream and all I can see is the overlay. So I feel a bit left out here, Pulse. You should probably take the forefront because I'm going to be a good 10-15 seconds behind.
Okay, so the first ban out will be Kale, which is no small surprise because Kale completely destroyed that composition from Reason Gaming. The composition you were trying to run, which was basically a reset composition, could never get rolling because Kale just intervention the person they were trying to nuke down. So that's going to be banned out. We'll see what they run this time, but Fresh is going to be the first one to be picked up. Very different from the first kind of priority picks from the first game.
Yeah, so interesting stuff already coming out. Also saw there that Vi got banned, so obviously fearing the Vi. So lots of respect being shown between the two teams. Thresh first pick is definitely a different slice of the support life here in second game. They had Leona first time around, but Thresh adds a lot different utilities, a lot different abilities to the mix. He's more of a pull in, jump on top of them, get the box down, and try and clean up afterwards. I can see they're hovering over an Annie. I would be quite surprised if they locked that in.
Yeah, they in fact locked in the Gragas and the Shyvana. We're gonna see what Reason Gaming follow up with, but with their support already locked in, I would like them to go with like a team fight composition here, because they seem to like to go for those scrappy team fights, but they could never really go for the right team fights because their composition was never up to scratch when it was facing down the TheFoxSound, and they are hovering over the Kazakhs again, and with no Kale on the board, this could work out.
Yeah, I think one of the main issues with picking Kazakhs last time around for jungle is they first picked it, and they didn't ban Kale out. They left a lot of big champions open, so maybe learning from their mistakes. And actually, I believe that Hyala said in the chat, we agreed we shouldn't have picked first picked Kazakh. So it's something that they themselves actually realised, and were like, okay, that's an issue, we need to resolve that. Interestingly enough, Shyvana was left open in the first game as well, Pauls, wasn't picked. This time around it's going to be.
It is indeed, and Shyvana can be seen in the top lane, it can also be seen in the jungle, and it looks like they want it as a jungle pickup because they are hovering over Renekton. And by picking Shyvana very early, it's a very ambiguous pick and it can go basically anywhere, so it will help them out in terms of just kind of structuring a composition around what Reason Gaming decides to pick up. And Renekton, again, is just a consistent pickup. I personally don't think he's as strong as the other top laners, but because of the Shyvana nerfs and the fact that Shyvana's being picked up by them, they don't really have anything to fear in the top lane.
He's also just this incredibly immovable object at top for the first 5, 10, 15 minutes if he starts to get farm. Very difficult to force out of lane, which could actually see another lane switch up. It is very potential here. Plus the fact as well, going back to the Shyvana pickup here, I would expect to see it in the jungle. I was expecting this before the Renekton lock even came in, because Santarin's Vi was banned. I know he loves to run Shyvana, so it would make a lot of sense. On the other side, Thresh Sivir lane is a hyper utility lane. You've got the ultimate coming in, the on the hunt from Sivir that can close the gap. You then got all of the CC that Thresh brings to the table, and this is going to pay off very well alongside the likes of Kazakhs, because you can speed him up, you can lock players down, and then he can manage to excel in an area he simply didn't see in the first game, and that's assassinating people. This composition is tailor-made for Kazakhs to run rampant.
Yeah, and now we've had the LeBlanc pickup alongside the Trundle pickup, which is absolutely perfect, because we were just talking about they need the resets, they need to get rolling in team fights, and who better to do that with is LeBlanc, because she's going to nuke someone down. She can 100-0 basically anyone she chooses if she's got the right positioning down, and Trundle as well versus Renekton. I'm not actually sure how that matchup goes. Like, typically, Trundle was picked up in the meta because he was a counter to Dr. Mundo and Shyvana in the top lane. That was the reason, but I just don't typically know how he'll do against Renekton. Presumably, he'll be able to outscale him, but we'll just have to see. And we've got another 30 seconds left, so if you've got anything to comment on before we jump to the break.
Back onto the Trundle question. I think it's a case of Trundle just surviving the first few levels, and then, as you say, he will outscale Renekton in the latter stages. Plus, I really like the Trundle pick as well for team fights. You've got two hyper-assassination champions with Kazakhs and LeBlanc, and then you've got the Pillar of Ice coming in from Trundle to keep his AD carry safe at the back lines. So they have kind of a bit of everything here, Pulse. I really like this combination. Much better than that first game.
Well, we'll see how this will turn out for both of these teams. We jump into the second game, and potentially the last game of this best of three series between Reason Gaming and TheFoxSound. We'll be back very shortly, don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Reason Gaming and the TheFoxSound EUW Challenger Series number 18. I am Pulse, I am joined by Metas, and we have Dancing in the mid lane.
We do. It's a bit better than Annie taunting and then getting a reckoning in the face from Kale. But I was so tempted to call him Randuin's Gaming. I'm going to be honest with you, Pulse, after that first game.
I saw that in chat somewhere, and I indeed lolled. But oh well. Barney D, you're going to go ahead and dance. Cycius is going to walk around in circles. Tracy is doing something, and Santorin is also dancing.
Well, I guess that means we're not going to have any early action because everyone's too busy getting their moves
funky
on. Yeah, getting down with it. I can't believe I just said that. That's like the cringiest thing I think I've ever said on cast.
Meanwhile, in 1940,
getting their groove on.
Oh dear. Anyway,
we should stop.
We should. It's going in places that I don't want it to go to.
I'm so tempted to say so many things right now, but we're not going to have the lane switch-ups this time, Pulse. We are going to have the standard 2v2 at the bot lane, which is going to leave Trundle against Renekton. As he said before, pre-level, I'd say 6 to 9, Renekton is going to have the upper hand there. But after that, Trundle is going to start to get some items. He's going to start to scale well ahead, especially with his ultimate. And it's quite a deceptively strong ultimate as well, Pulse. Suddenly you can find yourself dead, and you're like, where the hell did that come from? That's the strength of Trundle.
I think we're gonna see, well, we're seeing these lanes that are just very conventional because all these lanes can go even. Like, they're all lanes that don't necessarily win against the other. Sivir may not necessarily have the most amazing of laning phases, especially against someone like Jinx, but they can still definitely win it with someone like Thresh. And I think now is a good time to talk about the mid lane and kind of like the focal point that's going to be Senkux in this game. Do you want to take that away?
Yeah, we were talking about this in the break, and I fully agreed with the conclusion that you came to, that you think so much of this game comes down to how LeBlanc plays, and I agree. I think Trashy is going to camp mid, because if they can get those two rolling, you can already see that there's a fair amount of chunk coming down from Senkuz there in mid. But if they can start to get LeBlanc snowballing down that hill, Gragas is going to get beaten up upon. He's a melee champion, he can only farm from range. That's going to allow Kha'Zix to get himself into contention, to pick up a couple kills, and we've seen this from the likes of Bjergsen and LCS. If you give LeBlanc a few items and a few kills, she is going to decimate you so quickly.
Yeah, and that also translates into how the team fights are going to go, because we were saying, okay, well, the counter to the kind of instant burst and getting those initial resets is not only going to be the wild growth to kind of be a soft intervention, but also the Gragas barrel, which is typically going to be the teamfight reset if you're trying to stop that reset from happening from Trash and Sencooks. That's not going to happen if Sencooks does super well in this game and can just 100-0 Lapras before he gets the ultimate off, or even does anything in the teamfight. So if that happens, then they're not going to be able to teamfight against Reason Gaming, and that will solve the issue they had in the first game.
What I would say, though, is that last game as well, remember, it was Kale versus Ziggs, and we said Ziggs should have the upper hand, but Lapras played phenomenally well. Got himself ahead on CS, got himself a couple kills, and remember, he finished off that game on Kale, absolutely destroying. So the individual skill of Lapras is right up there. So again, it's a case that I think Trashy is going to have to intervene a lot in mid, and looks to be exactly what he's about to do.
Indeed, and it's basically a no-brainer for him to try and go for this one. Double buffs are alive and jumps in. The isolation bonuses come out. The flash forward into another Taste Their Fear. First blood picked up by Trashy.
Completely expected. I am a bit surprised that there was no ward coverage over there from Gragas. I mean, it just maybe ran out because his ward just came back available again, but now LeBlanc jumping back in on Santorin. So you're seeing already, without many items, without a kill, just an assist, Sencooks is already starting to destroy.
I just heard something very interesting from our producer.
It sounded like a boat horn.
Apparently it was a mobile.
Vibrating next to his mic. Lovely.
The most professional broadcast here at Chaos TV. I'm hoping you didn't hear that, because that caught me unawares. But it did sound like a boat.
Like a foghorn going.
Yeah, like a foghorn. Anyway, back onto this game and more important things. So, Jinx harassing Crazy Cats out of this lane, and it's very difficult for them to really do too much. Like, Zaitun can't push back the constant auto attacks from Barney D, and as a result, Crazy Cats is being constantly welled upon.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. There's so much CC and utility on this bot lane. Crystalline plays a mean Sivir as well. Seen it plenty of times in the past. So this is one of the strengths that you get. Yes, Lulu is quite an irritating support to play against, but when you've got Barney D just being up in the grill, not letting you have any respite, this is what happens. You're going to get pushed back to your lane. There's not a great deal you can do about it.
So I'm taking a look at top lane, and this is another lane we were kind of commenting on just a little bit. I am keeping an eye on the Kha'Zix, however, who is heading around the backside of Lapras. Will be jumping in. The Taste Their Fear comes down, another Sigil of Silence from LeBlanc, and Lapras is already forced back to base. So back onto that top lane though, Trundle versus the Renekton matchup. Renekton, I would assume, has a slight upper hand early game, which is what we're seeing from the CS. But when you progress later on into the game, he's just going to trade up straight against Zeros all the way through. Because Dominance has popped, okay, Subjugate is popped, and then you win.
Exactly. And also Trundle's very very slippery champion, or sticky as the case may be, because he's difficult to escape and he's difficult to chase down, because he's going to shove down the frozen domain, which gives him additional movement speed, healing, attack speed, and everything else. And you've got the Pillar of Ice as well that can just block you and just kind of troll you around. And as we said before, after level 6 to 9, that's when Trundle picks up a couple of items and he will start to get the upper hand on Renekton. So you can still see that Xerius is trying to assert his dominance while he still can.
It's pretty cool as well, because Beansu's using the traditional Trundle skin, so I feel like we should be calling the original names like Pillar of Filth and such, but...
True,
Wait.
It caught me off guard when they changed that, because I prefer Pillar of Filth.
Yeah, I mean, they changed his entire lore, and it made more sense for it to be Pillar of Ice rather than Pillar of Filth, which could be misconstrued in many different ways. But Santorin is going to be aggressing into this blue buff, and Trushy's going to be farming unawares. He has been warded up, so we could see a reaction. It's definitely going to come in from Trundle, and that Pillar of Filth will block up that escape route.
It's going to be a tough one. Actually jumps in, gets the blue.
Yeah, and does find himself a Sencooks on the other side. Kha'Zix is going to be quite happy with that one, but LeBlanc not so much. Sencooks getting another barrel to the face for his troubles. So, all in all, I do think that was an advantage to the TheFoxSound.
Yeah, and on top of that, LeBlanc, because Kha'Zix jumped in to take away the blue buff, that's going to be no blue for LeBlanc, which desperately needs for cooldown for the mana regen and everything else. So that is actually going to directly hinder LeBlanc in mid, and that's a really big play. Bot lane up.
Yeah, we've got the small engage going on, or rather larger engage. Crazy Cap's trying to go as far as he can onto Barney D. The help picks comes out, Drinks jumps forward, doesn't quite land the boomerang blaze. I just complete screwed up my spectator. Zaitian pushing forwards onto Bonnie D. Meanwhile, for the backside, Trash has come in, gets 1 kill, looking for the isolation damage onto the second, doesn't quite pick it up, and Crazy Cat will walk back up to his turret.
He will indeed. I'm just going to check here, Paul. So you live at the moment?
I am indeed, but when I was playing that, I clicked to 4 minutes, and I was like, well, this is not where I want to be.
That caster though.
Quite
GG.
good. I was trying to pan down, but oh well.
Yeah, because I was thinking you're a couple seconds behind me. That's quite strange. But Gragas has picked up the blue buff in mid. So even though he did go down for that first blood, actually is in a pretty good position right here, right now in this lane. Plus the fact he's a Doran's ring ahead of LeBlanc. So he's going to have a bit more health, a bit more AP damage as well.
He definitely needs those triple Doran's rings to stay alive in this lane, because his objective right now is not to beat LeBlanc, it's basically to not die and just farm it out. Because if he dies, then LeBlanc gets ahead, Trashy gets ahead as well as a result of that, and then they just start losing the game all over the board. So he can't afford to keep on dying, but what he can do is outpush LeBlanc, which is very annoying for Sencooks.
Yeah, and as you say, can't really hope to beat LeBlanc right now in this laning phase. It is just a case of getting that farm down, making yourself relevant in mid to late. And Gragas right now, Lapras is doing a very good job of that. Meanwhile at top though, looks like we're going to have some action kicking off.
Dominus has been popped, Trashy over the wall, Lance tastes their fear, a dragon has just appeared, but now this is going to be another 1 versus 2. Surely Trashy will pick this one up. He's got the double buff, flashes over the wall in chase, doesn't decide to go any further, doesn't want to be staying in that burnout trail, and as a result he just backs on off. Flash has been used by both of the junglers.
Yeah, and Trashy answering the call from a lot of people in chat that were questioning Karzik's jungle. He's been involved in every single kill right now, 2-0 and 1, and he's had a much greater impact on this game already, Paul. So much better than game 1.
Yeah, but like game 1 was basically that KO pick completely countering out Karzik. This time around they're in much better shape. Body D misses another death sentence, but Zaichin has been locked up by the box, jumps into the bush to try and cut vision. How that has already been warded. Bonnie D's trying to pick up this kill. Death sentence in 4 seconds. Crazy Cap has been locked up. Another zap comes down, and now they are going to be chasing them down, but both of these guys is going to kind of fizzle out and go back to farming.
I've got to say, the focus there at bot lane from Crystalland and Barney D was a bit strange. They both focused completely on Lulu, which freed Jinx up to just go crazy onto Crystalland, forcing him back. I feel if they'd maybe tried to go past Lulu and put some more damage down onto Jinx there, they could have came out slightly ahead. They could have maybe even picked up the kill, but regardless, hindsight 2020 and all, they're just going to both stay in lane.
Yeah, so right now it's 11 minutes into the game, no one has even looked at Dragon sideways, but Sencooks has found himself. Lapras is going to be placing down some more harassment, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do see at least one of these teams try and attempt the Dragon, because at the moment we're kind of at a stalemate until more happens. Bonnie D going to be dragging Trashy into this fight. Already drops him incredibly low, slows him down with that passive. Boomerang Blade comes down, it doesn't quite get in. Santorin using Dragon Descent has arrived into this fight. Flame Breath comes through, Flay comes backwards, but Bonnie D is dropping so low. Sencooks has come in from the mid lane using a great mobility, but no one has dropped just yet. Maybe being a bit too aggressive, doesn't pick up anyone.
So Trashy falls down, and that all came off the back of 2 mistakes that happened. Voice Spikes missed from Trashy point blank range. Death Sentence missed from Barney D. If either of those landed, Jinx was dead. And if Jinx died, they would not have had the Super Mega Death Rocket to finish things off onto the kill, and they would have probably picked up 2 more kills. So it goes to show again, Pulse, you miss one small, insignificant seemingly ability, and it can have a massive domino effect on how the fight kicks off.
Yeah, and I think the domino effect describes their team fight so well, because if they don't get a kill, then they don't do anything. They just have to get to that point, and if they don't pass that threshold, then they just lose straight up. But as soon as they start losing members, their first kill is going to become less and less likely, and then they can't even escape from that fight. So it's a very all-in type of fight, and Trashy again is trying to just sniff for another kill, but it's not going to find it.
Yeah, it's just so close yet so far, because if either of those landed, as I say, you just slowed down Jinx, or in the case of Death Sentence, kept her in place, got that kill, things would have been looking much better. Trashy coming to top though, forcing that flash away. Yeah,
the Pillar of Fill comes up and jumps into the brush. They're going to find Zaicius. It doesn't look like he's going to really escape from this one, trying to waste their time. Trump comes out, and the Voice Spikes reclaims that kill.
And from here on out, this is where Trundle is just going to demolish Renekton. He is going to be so far ahead, not just in terms of the fact that he's a kill ahead with a Sunfire cape, but because naturally he is going to scale better. So Renekton has lost that early dominance that he was enjoying before, and from here on out he's going to have to be super careful. As we're talking, Drake has been picked up there from the side of TFS, although the Boomerang Blade was pretty close to sealing that.
Yeah, indeed. But in the top lane, however, Reason Gaming are going to try and find themselves a turret in return. LeBlanc is heading back into the middle lane. Should be able to keep that alive as Lapras is going in for the seed. And Santrin looking to take away this blue buff, and I don't think Trundle can react in time. In fact, it will be Shyvana picking that one up. Lapras jumps over the wall. I'm going to go ahead and recall. Maybe not the smartest place to recall, but I think they know exactly what's up. And Beansu is going to take away this red buff with Trashy.
A bit confused. I didn't actually see the blue steel there, but why would Santrin not give that to Gragas? I mean, yes, there's the blue buff still up, which they can take, but surely it's safer to just give the non-dangerous blue to Gragas, because for all you know, they're going to counterattack on your blue buff.
They were going to, but Burnout was a thing. And because Burnout was on the floor, they couldn't move the blue buff away from them, and Gragas had kind of mistimed the barrel roll, so he didn't have any way of taking it, apart from flashing over the wall and trying to auto-attack it. Crazy Caps did get death sentence, but didn't go for the all-in.
Yeah, popped up the spell shield, and instantly Thrash was like, nah, I don't really want to tower dive this, especially when we're against a Lulu who has that wild growth. So smart play in the end. I would have been tempted to jump on that, but I'm a Thrash player, so there you go.
Indeed. An interesting build from Zychus, and speaking of Zychus, he's being chunked down by Beansu in the top lane. That's grinding him down, but he's picked up the Tiamat, which is not a build I've seen for a very long time. But it works because Ruthless Predator is essentially auto-attack Ruthless Predator, attack 3 times, and it's 5 waves of Tiamat in like a second, which turns out to be quite a lot of damage. But it's not a build you see very often from Renekton.
No, and I think the reason he's gone for it is because they already have an out-and-out tank with Shyvana, and I think that Xerios realizes that he can't deal with Trundle. Going tanky against Trundle simply will not work because of the subject, the ultimate that is going to be coming in. So instead of going full tanky, he's like, we already have a tank, we're going to lack damage, and I need to be able to go toe-to-toe with Trundle, or at least get some CS. So Tiamat does make sense. My only worry, though, is if Renekton continues to get completely shut down, he is going to be absolutely useless past 30-35 minutes. And that's going to be a massive thorn in the side of TFS.
One of the other reasons as to why you pick up Renekton is because he offers a lot to a team fight over Trundle. Like, Trundle needs a specific team fight to be useful, in which you go for like a jungle team fight, you can split 2 people up from the pack, and then you can kill them before going for the rest of them. That's typically how Trundle works. But Renekton's more consistent, as Lapras is being chunked in the middle lane, and Duke's the ultimate, Lapras preemptively using that. So that's going to be a huge ultimate down for another couple seconds. But Xerath, like, he will be able to push out the waves with the Tiamat, which is another thing to keep in mind. But he won't be able to offer very much to the teamfight. Zychin, finally they go for a huge engage in the bottom lane. Flashes forwards, actually blocks the Super Mega Death Rocket. Jinx Spot is still back. Your Crazy Cat got to get that last auto. Like, both of these guys use their barriers, and they will be surviving. Jinx Spot, and both of the AD carries drop.
Oh, bloodthirsty top lane though. Looks like we're going to have some more action.
Yeah, Santrin backs on off. Burnout is still on that floor, but this is a 2 versus 2. Beansu is trying to just wail off with those auto attacks, but that Tiamat has come to fruition. When no one's hitting you, you deal a lot of damage. Trashy wants to try and jump in. Sencox uses both of those distortions and doesn't quite catch up in time.
See, another reason why I'm starting to worry for Xerios is because look at his build. 0 magic resistance against LeBlanc. You are going to get crippled by Senkus when he jumps in. It's going to be really devastating to watch. So, again, Renekton, I don't want to say that he's down and out just yet, but he's not having anywhere near as much impact as Trundle will.
Yeah, Garaga's barrel once again comes out, pushes Trashy away, but during midair didn't matter too much. But yeah, I definitely agree. Like, at the moment, I feel Xerath has just made a build specifically against Trundle, which has meant that he won't be able to offer anything to a team fight. He won't be able to offer anything else that isn't top lane. Like, if he's outside of top lane, he is so incredibly vulnerable, but in top lane, he's doing quite well.
Yeah, that's very true, but unfortunately, the game does not just consist around top lane. At some point, you are going to have to branch out into the likes of mid, into the likes of Baron Pit and such. So if you are just building for top lane, you're quickly going to find out the hard way just what LeBlanc is feared for, and that is jumping in and crushing players. Already has a needlessly large reward. No kills just yet, but remember, scaling into mid to late, that is going to change.
Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure what LeBlanc's scaling is like anymore, because you remember back in like season 2, season 3, before the LeBlanc rework in terms of her scaling and how her like abilities work. Bonnie D, however, has been caught flayed backwards. The Dragon Descent, fantastic reactions. The rest of the team is entering this fight. Crazy Caps gets almost completely destroyed by Trashy. He will take him down in a second rotation. Zenkus has come in, basically out of mana, but there's the second reset, and Santorin escapes with his life, but his teammates have already fallen. Dragon up in 40 seconds, so nothing they can really contest, but my god, the damage.
That's the key word on this composition for Reason Gaming. It is damage. Raw damage, burst, and output. And that's what we just saw there. Trashy has been so instrumental in this game. And going back onto the point you're making before, LeBlanc scales very well. She's very item dependent right now on this meta. So once she starts to get the likes of Deathfire Grasp, maybe Randuin's Omen, maybe Zhonya's Hourglass and the like, she is going to be so deadly to play against. So definitely one to watch out for.
Yeah, because before she didn't really have that scaling. It was basically you're really strong early mid game and then you fall off like a rock. But now that LeBlanc, continues to get stronger, then you can nuke down those targets like Kamunda or even Santorin, who is aggressing around this Dragon Pit. Senkux is going to be the one sitting around the outside. Lands the, a sigil onto both of those guys, which doesn't proc either of them, so it doesn't do any damage.
Just maybe showing off his mechanical skill. In and out really quick. But unfortunately, not really doing a great deal of damage, forcing them back, but they're not going to be able to jump on any objective. So again, it's that lull in the action, fairly close, although it looks very one-sided to Reason Gaming right now on kills, only 2k in it, so still very close for 20-minute mark.
Is indeed. So Jinxbot gets, zapped by Jinx, which is quite confusing. I'm going to keep calling him Chrysalis now, because now that I've gotten used to the fact that it is Chrysalis, then I'm just going to call him that. It was fine when he was playing Jinx, because I can just call him Jinx, but now it doesn't.
It's strange. Jinx on Jinx action. That sounds a bit dirtier than it actually was, but you saw them diving on top of each other. Wow, that sounds even worse. Yep. The innuendo, OP. They just jumped on top of one another underneath the tower, though, in that 1-for-1 trade that we saw previously. But Deathfire Grasp has been finally picked up for LeBlanc, so burst potential has just escalated a significant amount here. Gragas is no longer safe.
Right, so 9-3 will be the scoreline. Slight advantage to the team of Reason Gaming, but even just in gold, and the rest of the body are looking very strong. 1 versus 2 onto Beansu. I'm not sure he can just tank his way through this one, especially when Zytius is doing so much damage. It will take them quite a while to finish off Trundle, but it will happen. Jurassic is trying his best to try and save his ally, but 1 Void Spikes is not going to do the job.
I realised that before, the joke that I said may not have came through for people that hadn't seen game number 1. I said Randuin's Omen on LeBlanc because Pulse made a mistake in game 1 saying that Chain Vest built into Randuin, so I was just having a bit of fun. Of course I meant Rabadons.
Yeah, you would have had to have seen the whole series to understand.
Yeah.
But I think most of the people in chat would have understood it, but yeah. It was just a small jab at me, which I was just not going to acknowledge at all. So, yep.
GG.
Anyway, so back onto the game. King's coming down into the bottom lane, and Crazy Cats has been called out. Box comes down. There's the death sentence. No way he's going to get out of this unless Jinx stops attacking. Jump forwards from Trashy onto Zacian. Picks up another kill. 2 for 0. And now in the bottom lane, it's looking very vulnerable.
It's crazy how much of a seesaw League of Legends is, because game number 1 was pretty comfortable in the end to TFS, but anything but this time around. Looking to pick up this next tower, and Renekton's trying his best, does have some cavalry coming in. Looks like they may be thinking about this until Deathfire Grasp came out.
A big Gragas barrel comes through, doesn't do all that much damage, only lands onto 2 targets. Santorin will be clearing out that ward. Tower falls in the middle lane, just a matter of trying to find this pick. Trashy is very low. This might be the time TheFoxSound wants to push forwards, but it's not going to be the case. Reason Gaming just still looking very strong and not making any dumb decisions.
Yep. Very much the case. They're realizing that, hey, we are leading this game right now. We are doing our game plan to perfection. Let's not screw this up by being too greedy, because that does turn so many games in League of Legends. Just overextending, over hubris proves to be a lot of players' downfall. So smart play from Reason Gaming also allows them to go back to spawn and pick up some more items.
So, we're looking at the TheFoxSound, and they still have a very good team fight. I mean, even though the lanes maybe haven't gone the way that they would have wanted it to, just having 5 people in one place makes it very difficult for Reason Gaming to flat out go for a team fight. Because as long as they're all clumped, well, great, you can assassinate one person, but you've all just jumped on top of that person while there's a Gragas in the area, so is 2 beefy, like basically 2 beefy bruisers who will just instantly destroy you because you are so squishy. LeBlanc and Kha'Zix, yes, they dish out a lot of damage, but they are glass cannons at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's very, very true. If you can manage to get one of them out of position, they will die very, very quickly. And when you got Gragas as well, he's the master of disrupting, of maneuvering team fights into his favor. So again, it's one of those kind of situations where, yes, you're putting out a lot of damage, but you have to be so, so careful at the same time, Pulse.
Yeah, absolutely. So, right now, with 1 minute 30 seconds on the Dragon, you might see both these teams try and get up around those areas, but Zactius in the top lane still hasn't picked up any magic resist, and even though he is venturing out of the top lane, LeBlanc is just going to choose him as their primary target with only 56 magic resist. That's just not enough to keep himself healthy.
Exactly. I love what you just typed in chat, by the way. Distort in, randomins distort out. Master troll at work. Just jump in, slow everyone down. All the CC.
I'm gonna do that in solo queue now. Don't do that in solo queue, it's horrific.
Don't.
Solo queue is already bad enough with that Teemo pick by High. It's horrific.
Galio
You've got
support.
Teemo there, Galio support, which I actually think is pretty good, but not in solo queue. But Santorin's going to be picking up that white in the jungle. But yeah, solo queue, I'm not touching that for a good couple of weeks. It's pretty bad right now.
Yeah, I did my placement games, I agree. It was, yeah, I nearly had a heart attack numerous times. I managed to get back into Plat 5 again, but yeah, still want that diamond, still want to go diamond again. Not going to happen anytime soon. Yeah. It wasn't, no, it was pain.
Indeed, so that's what you've learned. Please don't pick Trundle in the top lane and everything else out of context. I mean, that's something that happens a lot, not just in solo queue, but I'm seeing a lot in like LCS games, and even like professional players are just picking up champions like out of context, and that was a jinxel. But like champions are coming in when they're not necessarily supposed to. Like the Kayle that we saw last game was perfect because it countered the reset composition. But a Kayle, just like as a first pick, can be easily countered. It doesn't really offer too much to a team traditionally, and she's only strong because other picks are strong. That's kind of what we're seeing a lot.
Yeah, the thing is, the difference between solo queue and LCS obviously is the individual skill and the team play as well, and that's why a lot of these quirky and kind of out of the ordinary picks work, because the players playing them know their limitations. They've played these champions plenty of times in scrims, they've played them plenty in solo queue, they know what they're doing. Whereas if you just pick it up for the first time in solo queue, you don't know your limitations, you don't know your trading potential, and suddenly you find yourself 0 and 10 and everyone flaming you. So it's not an ideal situation to pick it up in solo queue. LCS players, they're starting to make things flavor of the month. Teemo, Galio, as we mentioned before, but anytime I see them in my picks and bans on my side, I'm actually dying a little inside because I know they're going to feed.
Finger over that dodge button, but Lapras has actually found himself Beansu in the jungle. Zactius over the top, over those golems, and clearing out that paint wall. So that's 100 gold down the drain. Beansu's going to pick himself up 30 as he walks on out of the jungle. This might be a fight that they want. The Reason Gaming, if they can catch the TheFoxSound with 3 of their members not in the right place, that's the type of fight that they want.
Yeah, Civ is bot though, so they have to keep that in the back of their minds. They don't have On the Hunt, they don't have all that AD carry damage coming in from the 4-1-2 of Crystalline right now. So that's probably a determining factor as to why they didn't pursue that fight there, Pulse, because it was a bit too sketchy. Again, they're playing safe. Safe, slow and steady wins the race.
So once again, Civ aggressing onto Razor Cap. So much damage. Barrier comes out, saves his life. But that's another summoner down. Even underneath the turret, he is so incredibly good. Lapras has been called out. Death Sentence comes in and still locked up. Suppression part of that Death Sentence from Barney D means he's not going anywhere.
Well, that is the terror of LeBlanc, and has a Void Staff now. on top of that Deathfire Grasp. That's going to be a tower taken at bot lane because Jinx was forced back, courtesy of the onslaught from Crysland. And you are starting to see these gaping holes in the armor right now of TFS opening up. And you've got to give credit to Reason Gaming. This slow, steady approach is working.
It is, and that's quite a lot of damage from LeBlanc onto Zytius, even though he only landed 2 abilities, didn't proc the ultimate, and that is purely because he's got no magic resist. He's only just picked up the Negatron cloak, but it may be too little too late.
And the voice staff will cut right through that. He has waited way too long to pick that up. Which we said before, it was built against Trundle, that's fine, but when you get to these stages of the game, it's not going to do you any good.
Right now, you would be expecting a traditional Renekton top lane to have that Spirit Visit already, and the tank item, but because he opted for the Tiamat and the Brutalizer, which great, works against the Trundle, Trundle's going to say, okay, well, I'm just going to go for the rest of my team, and you're going to be useless in these team fights, whereas I'm going to be strong because I built normally. Now, Zytius is going to be the one going for the initiate, but he's not all that tanky. We'll be dropping very soon. Sengoku jumps in, gets squirreled immediately. Crazy Cats takes him down. Beatsu is trying his best to push forwards. He gets one reset. Trash is almost out of mana, but it doesn't matter. Lapras comes back in, nukes down another target. 3 for 2 trade, and the TheFoxSound are looking great in this fight. Zap will land onto Trashy. He is not going to escape from this one. Surely, there we go. Shut down for Jinx.
I just love the fact that Lapras turned around and there was this mentality on the side of Reason Gaming. It was that fight or flight. The amygdala kicked in. They're like, we want to go for this kill. Suddenly, Gragas is like, nope. Throws an explosive cast, crushes down Crysland, crushes down Trashy as well. They turn that fight on its head. That's the power of Gragas. That's why we were saying before, if you get out of position, he will punish you.
Yeah, and this is exactly the point we were making. Against this composition, Gragas is great. You can stop Sengoku, you can stop Trashy from destroying your back line because Gragas Barrel. It is reliant on getting that in the perfect place, and something I didn't even consider was Polymorph. Like, one of these assassins jumps in, gets squirreled, they die, and then their effective damage output has been halved.
That's exactly it. With the wild growth and the polymorph, you can pretty much just negate all of the prowess and all of the presence that either Kha'Zix or LeBlanc manages to escalate into that team fight. And that's kind of what we saw there. I will say that the beginning of that fight was a bit rusty from Sengoku because he jumped right into the front lines all by his lonesome and he almost instantly died there. I'm not sure if he caught it. But as soon as LeBlanc was down, there was a definite feeling on TFS side. It's like, guys, we got this. If we play this right, we've won this fight because there is not really that much follow-up damage.
Yeah, and right now, Trashy and Jinx bot in the bottom lane, chunking down Renekton. He's just not tanky at all. Even itemizing towards that armor is not going to keep him alive.
No, and with picking up that kill at the bot lane, they can now try and push the lane and maybe come back for a Baron because Renekton is dead for 36 seconds. Looks like they want to pressure around the blue buff and maybe play slow and steady again. This is fair enough. You don't want to try and go for that 50-50 Baron that could very well put TFS back into this game. Plus the fact, I think that last team fight probably shook them up a tiny bit. They're now not quite as confident as they were 5 or 6 so minutes ago.
Yeah, they won't want to go for a Baron. They won't want to even go for these inner turrets right now because they're just a little too close. They're still ahead in the game, that's for certain. They do not need to push their luck. They are going to get stronger, they're not going to get weaker. The TheFoxSound are going to not really like explode out of control. They don't have like a Vayne on their team, which is going to become a huge threat late game. So they can just afford to play this game a little slower. They're in no rush to close this one out.
Yeah, and you can see right now they are just trying to play this ward war, and they're trying to come out ahead right now, and they have managed to put down a lot of wards around here, cleared out a fair few as well. This is maybe looking to pick off a play and then transition into a Baron afterwards. So right now, TFS are walking on eggshells. They cannot afford to get out of position, because if they do, they'll get punished. So if they're going to bot lane again, this could be the time when TFS try and make some plays. Absolutely.
If they have one person out of position, that might be what they can do. Their picking potential isn't super amazing compared obviously to Reason Gaming, but the TheFoxSound can still at least do something. Reason Gaming are making a very bold play onto Baron. They can take it down very quickly, yes, with both Trundle and Trashy, but Xerius is already respawned and they can very easily go for this fight. Gragas is one of the best champions at disrupting a Baron attempt with that Gragas barrel, not only being a great tool for potentially stealing, but just does so much damage when everyone is kind of clustered up in that Baron pit.
That's a very good point that I was about to make as well, that it's not just a case of worrying about the smite, it's worrying about the burst damage that Gragas puts down. I believe that Lulu just used Flash, yeah, did at top lane to get away from Kha'Zix, so that's going to be a pretty important pickup, because not just the Flash being popped, knowing that she's going to have to go back to spawn, this could again be the start of clearing out these wards, setting up for the Baron dance.
But just by pressuring the Baron, it draws the TheFoxSound out of their cubbyhole of their base. Jinx ult comes across, lands onto Senkux on the way there. Santorin has definitely killed that decoy, and so has Lapras, but he's still waiting around the outside. Baron is already dropping incredibly low, but Beansu is chunked down to half. Only from that objective, Santorin has been caught, trying to send in, and a huge knockup from Wildgrove, but it isn't going to be enough to secure this victory for them. Zerius has re-engaged, maybe a bit of miscommunication. Zaician is going to drop because of that miscommunication. Crazy Cap's over the wall. Everyone's so low on both of these teams. Drops onto that Jinx's face. Wolvie taking him down. Bonnie G drags Lapras back into his team. Zaician is the only one left standing from the TheFoxSound, and he cannot face down Trashy. Double kill comes out, and the ace.
We've been putting so much emphasis on both Kha'Zix and LeBlanc in terms of damage. What we haven't mentioned is Crystalline's damage is massive right now. He was chunking through Shyvana like she was never there in the first place. Shyvana's pretty tanky right now, Pulse, and fell very quickly. So many threats on the table. Instead of going for the tower push and inhib, they've chose for the Baron instead because they knew it was a certainty. They could definitely pick it up. So game's not over just yet, but the last couple minutes have all been in Reason Gaming's hands.
Honestly, that team fight could have been the TheFoxSound. It was purely that miscommunication from Renekton that we saw, where it was basically Shyvana jumps in, gets caught, dies. Okay, great, we can just disengage, get out of there. But Zerius, he's like, okay, re-engage, jumps in as Renekton, and then you could see the hesitation from like Zaician and the rest of them, who put themselves back into a bad position. Barney D landed the death sentence, which he wouldn't have normally, because they hesitated and walked back into the fight. So, turning that into a 4 versus 5, definitely not the right call.
And that's one of the main differences between the top LCS teams and a lot of these challenger teams. It's those split-second do-we, don't-we's that cost you games. That really important, influential moments in the matches like that one, which an LCS team would have been on the same page. They'd have said go or back. I definitely agree with you. I think TFS were caught in too many minds. Ends up they did nothing, they get caught, they die, they give a Baron away, and a huge amount of psychological boost as well to Reason Gaming, because they had a couple of edgy team fights just a few moments ago, Pulse, where it looked like TFS could be bouncing back. That's going to put Reason Gaming in prime position.
They're 12k ahead, but I still wouldn't say the TheFoxSound are out of this game. So many times we see teams being this far ahead and being like, okay, we look towards the next game. But the TheFoxSound are still definitely in this. They still have that team fight. If they're coordinated enough, they can completely disrupt everything that Reason bring to a fight.
Agreed, completely agreed, because if you start to manage to survive just a bit longer, allow Jinx to pick up the likes of an Infinity Edge, get the GA on the cards, get Gragas that Zhonya's Hourglass, then Kha'Zix LeBlanc are going to stop being as scary. If they can put together the ultimates, if they can manage to chime together, they can still win this. I fully agree with you. All they have to do is stall until Baron goes off, and then try and catch someone out of position. This game's not over just yet.
Yeah, and we're eventually getting to the stage where Renekton has not only picked up the damage items, has stopped that chain of thought, and is now moving towards tank items. And because he's been farming for so long, up to 300 CS as a top laner, which is something we don't see all that often, he's in really good shape right now. He's actually got enough to survive like a full rotation from Senkux and Trashy. He's not going to be that main focus anymore, so it's just about protecting that back line, because they still do a lot of damage themselves.
Yep, definitely the case, and you know, at the moment they're doing a pretty good job of stalling. Yes, they're attacking this bottom tower, but it's not fallen just yet. Meanwhile, at top they have like a 2 versus 2 situation with Lulu coming in. They're managing to do just enough. Wow, what happened?
Senkux got flattened by Lapras, who just landed a barrel roll into the explosive cast, and he died. that was basically it.
I was gonna apologise for not catching that, but I have a feeling that was like a millisecond death.
Yeah, like you couldn't have caught that. It's humanly not possible, but definitely what is seemingly not possible is a crocodile dying. Santorin in the bottom lane though, still chasing after them. May have to turn this one around. Even 2 versus 3, they were coming out ahead. With Trashy coming in from the backside. Zerius not going to be quite taken down, but they have gone for the side. Subjugate comes down, slice and dice. Walking amount of dodge, but Zaichin maybe not going to be so lucky with Taste Their Fear and the passive of Unseen Threat. Chunks him down to about 25% HP, and that should be the top tower falling.
And meanwhile, at bot lane, it was a 2 versus 3, and Sivir and Thresh suddenly turned round and forced the flash away from Lapras. So, just goes to show how strong they're feeling right now.
And that's the tower down. The inhibitor tower has been cracked. See if they can pick up a kill in the top lane. Santrin doesn't have any CC to speak of, so it's going to be very difficult for him to keep them in place. And Zerius was kind of backs on off, but now with that bottom tower down, they have nothing to keep that inhibitor alive.
Well, it's a balancing act right now. It's a balance between where do we play secure and safe and when do we go for that engage. Because if you allow another inhib tower and inhib to fall, you're in very dangerous waters. Right now it's doable, but they can't afford to let any more objectives slip through the cracks. They have to start making some plays.
And
oh my goodness.
He's dead. Yep, that's LeBlanc. And that's definitely what Jinx just learned. And now in the bottom lane though, Lapras has been caught out. Box comes down, Jinx spot flashes forward. Sanchorin is gonna go toe to toe with this guy. He is still in that dragon form, but LeBlanc has arrived from the middle lane after picking up that kill. Bonnie D is just zoning them away. Wild Growth used on the spawn pad. This could quite easily be the game. Huge missteps have already happened. This is going to be a 3 versus 5 at the very best. Yes, Sentinels does a lot of damage, but it's not going to be quite enough to get any more than 1 kill. Did get the shutdown, however. But with the middle inhibitor falling, the bottom inhibitor falling, this could either be the game or a lethal blow.
10 seconds or thereabouts on Jinx resurrecting. Wild Growth would be lovely right now from Zykian, but I don't think they can stop this.
No, it doesn't look like it. Possibly. We do have the respawn from Crazy Caps in 1 second. I mean, you know, when the support kills your mid laner, maybe that's that time to back off.
Yeah, that's pretty much the time to say, screw this, guys, I'm out. I'm just going back to spawn. But the damage has definitely been done. I mean, yes, they haven't finished the game just yet, but you have to feel it's only a matter of time. That has got a glimpse of light at the end of the tunnel for TFS, but that's all it is right now. They're going to have to dig in deep. You can see the burst potential of LeBlanc, who just insta-gib Crazy Caps to start off that fight. And from there on in, it was pretty much one-way traffic. I don't want to blow hot air up the backsides of the viewers here. This game's pretty much over.
Yeah, and everyone just went back to base, and because they pushed so far into that opposing base and basically up to the Nexus, that was both Trundle and Kha'Zix recalling with 3,000 gold each.
Yeah.
So they're going to be quite tanky, they're going to have a lot of items, and indeed the Mordman Mortis being completed. Last Whistle, Black Cleaver, and the Spirits of the Elder Blizzard, these guys are looking so incredibly strong.
And 2 Randuins as well, which is really important because when you have Jinx, who has no natural escapes, and you also have Renekton that's going to be jumping in plus Shyvana, if you can basically control their movement speed and attack speed, that frees up Sivir to go crazy, that frees up Kha'Zix to be jumping left, right and centre. So if you can manage to get them synchronised, the 1-2 combination of Randuins, suddenly the opposition just can't move, they can't do anything, and that is just going to allow Reason Gaming here to do whatever they please.
Yeah, and now it's kind of at the stage where you might be saying to yourself, now we need to be thinking about the next game, the last game of this series, the 3rd game, because it's starting to get to the point where Baron's just respawning. There is no chance that the TheFoxSound can even remotely contest this, and it's just going to be a matter of how cleanly and how smoothly Reason Gaming can close out the game, because it's just going to be either they pick up the game right here and now, or they lose another team fight and we wait for another 20 minutes to see how fast they can close the game out. Because at this stage, the TheFoxSound have only 1 inhibitor remaining, their team fight is good, but because they're so far behind, they can't even face down the assassins by themselves.
They have super minions pushing down bottom and mid, so at some point they're going to have to go in. Here we go.
Yeah, they're going to go for the last ditch attempt. The box comes down. Huge Kraken Sparrow onto 3 players. Takes down Bonnie D to support, but they need to make a bigger blow to this team of Reason Gaming. The tank has died, and the 1-for-1 trade did still favour Reason Gaming.
I've got to say, though, I'm not too sure about that play from Reason. I would have preferred they just hung back a bit more, allowed the super minions to go through mid and bot, and Jinx going in, and actually nearly dies.
Yeah, almost takes down Senkux, and Crazy Caps. Oh, the damage from Jinx bot. Red buff picks up that kill, and now they're in serious danger. Beansu just shrunking down that turret with his ally Jinx bot and Trashy, and now it's just gone bad to worse.
Yeah, this is pretty much the life support machine bleeping for the last few times, because that's all 3 inhibitors down, 2 players down for the next 20 seconds or 45 seconds, as the case may be for Jinx. They're going to go in to finish this one off.
Yeah, the TheFoxSound look like they're flatlining. The jump in from Trashy. Lapras has gone into the Zhonya's, but Zaishin just falls back into the spawn pad. This looks like it's going to be the game. Nexus down to 25% HP, and that will be Reason Gaming tying this one up 1-1.
Yeah, and the Kha'Zix jungle that everybody was talking about in chat, there you go. Under the right circumstances, in the right composition,